Imagine an eraser and a wooden bat. We're both heading at you at 10 meters per second. Now let me ask you, which one would you avoid? Most of you probably said the wooden bat, and that's because it would hurt more if you got hit by it. But let's try to figure out why it would. The reason it hurts more is because of something called momentum, which is given by mass times velocity. So for the bat, which would have weighed 2 kilograms, and since it was traveling at 10 meters per second, it would have had a momentum of 20 kilograms meters per second. And since it has a greater momentum, because it has more mass, it hurts more. But why does it hurt more? Well, to understand why, we need to learn something called impulse, which is both force times the change in time, and that's how you find it, or it's also the change in momentum. So for the bat, which was traveling at 10 meters per second, and since it weighed 2 kilograms, the momentum we found before was 20 kilograms meters per second. When the bat hits you and it stops, the mass is still the same. It's still 2 kilograms, but the speed becomes 0 meters per second. And since the speed became 0, the momentum, which is given by mass times speed, you get 2 times 0, which is 0 kilograms meters per second. So when it hits you, the impulse is negative 20. So for the bat, the impulse was negative 20, which is given by force times time. But we still don't know what the impulse is for the eraser. Well, since it's the transition from the initial momentum to the final momentum, we just need to find these values. And since we already know 0 is the final momentum for both objects, we just have to find the initial. So for that, we do mass times velocity. And since the eraser weighs 0.002 kilograms and is traveling at the same speed, 10 meters per second, it has an initial momentum of 0.02, which means the impulse, unlike the bat, which is negative 20, for the eraser, it's negative 0.02. And let's assume that the time that they keep hitting the body is at 1 second, which means back to our formula, force times time, the time doesn't matter since it's the same. Which means since the impulse for the bat is much greater than the impulse for the eraser, the bat's force is much larger, 20 compared to 0.02. And that means it's going to hurt more because more force is being applied to your body.